Hey guys, I want you to watch this clip of Michael Knowles and Megyn Kelly breaking down the media's reaction to the DC shooter, along with, why the Free Palestine movement is not a good one. Check it out.
That's so annoying to me. No one's saying that the people on the College of Columbia directly caused that guy to unleash this violence, but it would be asinine to not note this is exactly the same rhetoric we're hearing on these far left college campuses from coast to coast. Obviously, this guy is rattled. He was an eyewitness to it, but you're not allowed to make that connection on CNN, Michael.
What she's specifically referring to is a video on CNN of this woman going and saying, oh, well, you wouldn't compare the shooter to the Free Palestine movement. It has nothing to do with the Palestinians. And then the eyewitness, that they were talking to, that CNN was talking to, was like, what are you talking about? They both shout, globalize the Intifada. They both, say the exact same things. And so you don't have to, go after the eyewitness to the DC shooting just because he said that maybe this guy is connected to the Free Palestine movement. I mean, he literally shouted Free Palestine right after murdering someone. So maybe, just maybe, there's something connecting those two, the movement and the guy that murdered those two beautiful souls, Yaron and Sarah.
You're not allowed to say, gee, I don't really like these chants being allowed everywhere because it's endorsing something that, you know what, kind of feels a little genocide-y, kind of feels a little murdery. And now we've had two Israeli embassy workers killed.
Are you worried about the conflation of these two groups of people? Well, they're saying the same thing, and they say that they want the same thing. So, yeah, I think we could probably conflate them. That CNN lady did an earnest performance of a Norm Macdonald comedy bit. There's a great Norm Macdonald bit where he says, my greatest fear is that Muslim radicals will get a dirty bomb and set it off in a major city and kill tens of millions of people, because then the backlash against peaceful Muslims would be terrible. That was a comedy bit that he did. And the CNN lady is performing that as though it were earnest. This is the conclusion of the Free Palestine stuff. I talked about this on my show yesterday or 2 days ago. I mean, really spooky timing. I said, I'm sorry, I just can't get on board with the Free Palestine movement because I've yet to hear a coherent argument as to how what they want makes any sense. I've yet to hear a coherent argument that the state of Israel is not justified in going to war in Gaza or even continuing the war because the hostages are still being held. I've yet to hear a coherent argument for bringing this movement into the right-wing coalition. And I know that there are some people who are a little more favorable to the Free Palestine thing, but I said just as a basic matter of political coalitions, the Free Palestine movement is led by frothing leftist lunatics who are inclined toward violence. The Free Palestine movement is led by Greta Thunberg and the Columbia graduate students and Islamists. Somehow the Islamists are the most sensible people in the movement. That's not a good sign. And so it just doesn't make any sense. And it doesn't take a genius. It doesn't take a political philosopher to realize that the logical conclusion of revolution, intifada, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, blot out the Jews in the Middle East. It doesn't take a genius to recognize that when people who are already inclined toward violence in politics state those things, you're going to get political violence.
Not to mention, CNN, that one reporter, he interviewed Taylor Lorenz. They're laughing about Luigi. Like he's been lionized over there, not to mention They had Caitlin Collins out there promoting his crowdfund link. Maybe now might be a time to be a little bit more careful in how you handle these stories. It's possible you've been a little too slow to connect these messages to resulting violence, right? You've been a little too quick to fan the flames or to tamp down the flames, connecting all this rhetoric and then resulting violence. I just, like CNN, I don't know what they're doing over there, but it's not journalism. She immediately pivoted. Why don't you just get his story? Get his testimonial. This is how he feels. Shut the fuck up with your justifications of what we're hearing on college campuses. It's so annoying to me. He just watched two people get shot to death. He's upset. He's drawing a comparison to the rhetoric he's been hearing for 2 years now on college. Let him have his say, Sarah. It's not for you to try to cleanse his opinions.
That CNN lady is demonstrating the suicidal impulse within liberalism, which is that whenever they see any political action, they see a clear perpetrator and they see a clear victim, and they say, well, it has to be the opposite. They always have to immediately take the side of the perpetrator and always immediately neglect the victim, even when the political action is so clear as a murderer murders a young couple of civilians. You know, this is not to say that the Israel-Palestine issue is without nuance and complexity and totally clear-cut. I recognize there's been a lot of nuance and complexity to this issue, not only for about 100 years, but really for centuries and even millennia. However, I want nothing to do with the Free Palestine movement. And I think that people need to have some moral clarity here, okay? Just as a rule of thumb, you don't need to understand all of the complexity to realize that when the worst people on earth are all supporting one side, one political movement, you, if you are a sensible, reasonable person, should say, wow, I don't agree with these people on anything, on basically any other issue. So no, I probably shouldn't be on their side when it comes to this issue.
Yeah, same. I've said before, it's totally fine to criticize Israel. It is fine to think that they've over-responded to the horrific attack that they suffered on 10/7. But you don't run around chanting, globalize the intifada, and from the river to the sea, all of the, like, these are violent. These are calling for violence. That's really what they are. It's different. Free Palestine, okay, that one, yeah, I understand. That's less controversial. But these chants that we've been hearing on college campuses as these activists harass Jewish students, in some cases assault Jewish students. And then if I hear one more person try to tell me that, oh no, these are Jewish students doing the violence on college campuses, like Jewish Voices for Peace. It's such a joke that this is not a pro-Israel group. This is not even really a pro-Jewish group. This is a group of radicals who are pro-Hamas, who are masquerading as Jewish people who speak for Jewish people, and they're not. In any event, it's infuriating. And now 2 people are dead. And my understanding is, yeah, go ahead.
I'll go even further. You know, this is not even to say that there's never a role for violence in public life. Of course there is. There is such a thing as just wars. There is justified violence in self-defense, for instance. There's justified violence after due process when the civil authority punishes criminals. It's not even to say that violence in itself is always terrible and evil. But in this case, listen to the arguments that these people are making. The free Palestine, from the river to the sea, Israel or Palestine will be free, is a call at the very least for ethnic cleansing, if not genocide. Doesn't take a genius political philosopher to understand that. These kinds of arguments that the people are making are arguments not only against the state of Israel, or not even arguments against Jews or Zionism. They're arguments against imperialism. They're arguments in favor of radical liberation. They're arguments in some cases in favor of Islamism, Islamic government. These are arguments that we would not accept on any other front, that we disagree with at a fundamental philosophical level. And so if there's been ambiguity, if there's been some lack of clarity up until now, well, now you're seeing the logical conclusion of those arguments made by the people who favor unjust political violence in many other circumstances and with which we have basically nothing in common.
Mm-hmm. That's right. That's why Marco Rubio is ejecting these people from college campuses. I mean, really, you're here on a student visa. Sorry, it's a privilege. You come over to my house for dinner and you behave badly, I can throw you out. It doesn't matter. I don't care whether you're here on a visa or you're not here. You're here by invitation, and you can be ejected by my whim. You have no right to be in my home. And that's how Marco Rubio is treating these student visas on college campuses. He got into this. I'll show you. I'm going to get to something else that happened on the murders. But he got into this with Representative Jayapal, this squad member, on Wednesday at a hearing of the House Foreign Affairs Committee.
I couldn't agree more with Michael Knowles here. He is hitting the nail on the head, because it is not a Free Palestine movement. It has nothing to do with the Palestinians. It has nothing to do with those Gazans that are supposedly suffering. It has everything to do with toppling the West, with literally just destroying every single institution that we have and replacing it with something evil and worse. And Michael Knowles understands it. Megyn Kelly understands it, and they point something out here which is very important, that these people, regardless of whether you're pro-Israel or anti-Israel, these people are not about just Israel and the Palestinians. These people are about destroying everything good in the West and making it into something evil. If you want to support the channel, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/JewishUncensored. This is very important to note that we were demonetized recently by YouTube. We made another channel also for you to check out. We'll leave that in the description below. But for the meantime, you can support us there. Again, it really not only affects the amount of money we're bringing in to be able to pay our editors and, figure out how to get out the amount of content we want to get out, but also affects our viewership, because once you're demonetized, YouTube restricts the viewership of your videos. And so it's very important to get remonetized. But in the meantime, any support will help. So, go to the link below in the description and check that out. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.